No audio. I don't know if you can hear me, Lori.
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear anyone on this side.
Huh.
Hey, Chief.
See. No audio. No.
Okay. We are live. I'll keep working on that.
All right, we're ready to go. I'd like to call to order the June 8th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Please rise for the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
And to the republic
which
it
stands
One
nation
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
and justice for all.
I can take roll call. Mr. Cusatis.
Here.
Ms. Kircher. Ms. Kircher.
Here.
Mr. Galtier.
Here.
Mr. Stout.
here.
And Mr. Speece. I am here. All righty. I guess we're going to start with, I don't think we have any new additions to the agenda. I'll make one comment when we get to new business. We're going to start with the appointment or the discussion and appointment of a township manager so that our partner that we partnered with, Paul Jansen, can join us for that call, and then he can sign off afterwards. So that's, I think, the only change there. So I think we're going to start with public comments unless anyone else has anything. Okay. So agenda items.
All right, we've got 3 this evening on agenda items. The first one is from Terry Reilly, and he is commenting on the architect in the Promenade Shopping Center.
In my experience, a needs assessment is the first step in a process, and then, after it is completed, decisions are made about space requirements and who will provide the professional assistance. You went out and purchased the Promenade, and now you are attempting to engage an architect to determine your needs. Seems backward to me. The needs assessment was not part of the special meeting on May 14th when you interviewed the 4 architectural firms. That meeting and their presentations were to discuss their visions for the township's use of the Promenade Shopping Center. At the May 27th meeting, there was no discussion about the 4 different plans that the firms offered. Instead, you altered the direction of the work proposed by the RFP and decided to talk with KCBA about doing it on an hourly rate basis. This firm did a similar study in the past. Why not get some fresh ideas and perspectives from another firm? It seems to me that you wasted the time and effort of the other architects and had always intended to go with KCBA, a firm that has ties to Mr. Granger, the former township manager, who, in my opinion, did great damage to this township.
Okay, that was the end of his.
All right. Any comments from anyone? I don't know how to respond.
Just the only thing, Dave, I have never worked with that company at all, so
Yeah.
I have no familiarity with them at all.
Yeah, that was before any of us on the board. So maybe Michelle has some experience with them from when she was on the board, but Dave and I have no experience with them.
Yeah, that was 2016 or whenever that last
Yep.
election was.
And I'll remind everyone I have experience with them in my professional career at Boyertown.
And I think the only other comment I would make is, you know, we've been through a lot of these. The public's not able to tour through the police department, through the highway facility buildings and see the condition they're in. Obviously, when the work was done back in 2016, they knew there was a need. And some rough ideas were tossed around then. It didn't move forward. We knew we need facilities. We know we need things. So in my mind, what I think we're doing is taking a step back, bringing the public into the discussion, up to speed, and working to the conclusion together. We're not starting from scratch. This has been addressed in the past. We're reevaluating it, and we know we need facilities. It's a question of exactly which ones and how they're going to be done, what we can afford, and who we're going to work with. And we can't hold, in my mind, can't hold public discussions without any information at all, or someone that knows something about this. So that's why we were trying to get them involved. So that's my 2 cents.
I would agree with Dave's statement there.
Well, in my opinion, you started at the wrong place because there should have been many studies done prior to see even if that you even have the right location. There should have been discussion, open discussion with each department that's needed. We don't even know if everything can fit up there. And also we didn't have COVID-19 and other things that changed the way every business is going to be doing business, including townships. If anybody read the paper yesterday on Sunday, it has financial minefield. And that's really going to affect every business, every township, from the lowest all the way up to the top. And I think that we're just going too fast. We have to step back, start over, and see what I really need, and if we should be spending all this money at this time.
As I said, Michelle, last week, there was ways that we had this figured out. There was vision. There was a lot of good things that I think Mr. Granger would have done well with. So you're wrong. So I'll just leave it at that.
I don't think.
Excuse me,
I don't think
I'm
any.
not wrong. I have a
Yes, you are.
different opinion than
Hold on a
yours.
minute. Yeah, please. I
Okay.
mean, let's be respectful. I mean, John.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes. But I mean, we're taking a step.
Respectful but factual.
But let me, in my mind, this is a 2 to 3 year process. We're not.
Yep.
Moving fast is, I guess, relative if we think it should be a 10-year process. But, you know, I think we identified this need 5 to 6 years ago. We will work through it. And if we decide, whatever we decide as a board, we decide. So
Yes.
I think we can move on to the next comment.
Yeah, we have to, as I said, Michelle, we have to start doing things. You know, every week you say the same thing.
But,
So do you. Why do we have to start doing things before we try and get our own house in order here?
and I think we
That's
will
the
decide that.
point. That's what we're doing, Michelle. We are.
Let's not argue about it. We'll decide that as a group.
Yes.
Thanks. All right, next one, Laurie.
All right, next comment is from John Carmello. Now he commented on several agenda items, so I'm going to play them one by one just by nature of the way that the email came in. So his first comment, he is making comments about the disbursements.
1940, Central PA Teamsters $28,441, H&W coverage. What is the total annual cost and what employees does this cover? 10,183, Delaware Valley Health $121,783, non-union H&W. What is the total annual cost and what employees does this cover?
I could probably, I mean, Jen, are you on? If you want to comment that, I mean, it's just part of the contractual payments we have for health and welfare, I think.
Correct, Dave. The Teamsters is the monthly cost for the Teamsters based upon how many employees are enrolled in each plan and the coverage that they have. That is for the Teamsters employees, which are highway workers. There are some admin employees and some police admin employees who are in the Teamsters plan. The other divot plan is for the remainder of the employees. So that would be all police officers and the remaining administrative non-union folks for our health insurance. And those are monthly amounts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and his next comment is on the architect discussion.
Why wasn't the needs analysis done prior to the purchase of the Promenade? Since KCBA did the original plans in 2016, why did the BOS not select a different architect to get a second opinion or fresh ideas? With all the other critical issues affecting the residents, why is this item moved to the front of the line and having so much time dedicated to it?
Yeah, I think we kind of covered that.
Okay, and his last comment.
Unless anyone has anything else to add there. No. Okay.
Okay, and his last comment is on the discussion and appointment of township manager.
When you are considering residency status for the new manager, it is imperative that you consider the following. If the manager does not live in the community, she has no vested interest here. The manager should be subject to the rules, fees, and costs of the community they manage. If the township isn't good enough for the manager to live in, then what does that say about the township? How can you establish a good relationship with the residents if you deem them not good enough to live with?
Any comments from anyone?
We'll be debating that, Dave, on the
Yeah, we'll
manager, so
adjust
just
that.
kind of to the agenda item.
I think I'd like to make a comment just in that I worked in a public position and I did not live in the school district I worked at. And the reason I did not had nothing to do with them not being good enough to live with. I think that's an unfair statement. There are a lot of reasons why people choose to live where they live. In my particular case, it had nothing to do with the people not being good enough. I don't think we're being fair when you make a statement like that.
Thanks, Greg.
Okay, last comment on agenda items is from David Hughes, and he is also commenting on the architect discussion.
Many residents have been concerned with the supervisor's decision on the purchase of the Promenade, including how this project has been handled from the beginning to the present. Not only was the public not included in this major decision affecting our community, now it appears this board is completely confused as to what is needed, how to proceed, and what actions should be taken in the proper sequence. Recently, it was made known that in 2016, Mr. John Granger hired KCBA to evaluate our current buildings along with looking at the potential use of the Promenade. Apparently, a report and perhaps drawings were submitted to the township. The Promenade was purchased in late 2019, 3 years after this evaluation. Tonight, you will likely hire KCBA to do much the same they did in 2016. Comments made in the previous meeting indicated that the plans developed in 2016 were inadequate. Here you are moments away from hiring KCBA to do the same evaluation performed in 2016. During the last supervisors meeting where you claimed you would discuss the 4 architects, their qualifications, and make a choice, the board never once mentioned the other 3 architects. The complete discussion was, we don't know enough or we are not ready. The only architect you discussed was KCBA, a John Granger associate. In the end of the roundabout conversation, Mr. Cusatis and Mr. Speece cunningly brought the board around to offer KCBA the job again. KCBA had their chance, and most prudent leaders would consider having new eyes looking at the situation. Because our current leaders are confused and unsure what we need or how to proceed, they go with what is familiar. Did it ever occur to you that perhaps it would be best to wait until you hire that experienced township manager? Bottom line is, this is further evidence our leaders in the past 5 years still do not have a solid understanding or plan to move forward on this extremely expensive project.
Yeah, the only study KCBA did was the canine facility. I don't know what he's talking about with the Promenade. I'm not aware of anything that they did with the Promenade. I think there's confusion there.
Yeah, and I think before, well, I would say before the architect interviews, I had no idea that there were studies done, and it wasn't, I would not call them studies. It was apparently a brainstorming session where they jiggled around buildings. Clarence was here at the time and could probably comment, but it was like they said, oh, what could fit on here? What do we need? And there was no detailed analysis done. I think it was a brainstorming session. I would class.
Yeah, it wasn't. I wasn't even aware of those, of the art pieces that they came up with, but it was very, yeah, this was very basic. Just they were just talking about what are the possibilities here with this area. The Promenade wasn't talked about.
Yeah,
Not to my knowledge, anyway.
No, it was the Exeter Canine Facility was going to be where the
Right.
fire station.
That was
That's the only
fire
thing I
station.
remember. And that was before I was even on the board. It was just the minutes I read.
Right, that's it, yeah.
Okay. One off the side, Laurie, I could send you a text, but Mr. Jansen was having trouble
Oh,
connecting. I don't know if you could refresh his link or something.
yeah, I'll send him a new one.
Okay. If you need me to take a pause.
I should be good.
Okay.
I can send it quickly.
So that was it for public comments. So we'll go
Yep.
move on to, sorry, that was it?
That was it, yes.
Okay. Move on to regular approvals, minutes, May 26, 2020.
Make a motion to approve the minutes, May 26, 2020.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Disbursements for June 8th, 2020.
I'll make a motion to approve the disbursements for June 8th, 2020.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Joe, you had
I
some?
have
Yeah,
a question.
Oh.
I just got in my box this afternoon some disbursements. I believe they were from 5/26. So those haven't been brought up yet then. I want to make sure didn't get a double copy. I don't see I did. Is that correct? Lori, do you know?
Those that may, if they say 5/26, then they would have been for the last meeting. You should have the June 8th ones.
Yeah, then I just put in my, then, okay.
Oh, you
You're still
don't have,
having phone issues. You're still having phone issues with your email, probably.
No, it sounded like, Michelle, you said they were put in your mailbox?
yeah, so it sounds like,
Yes, this one I picked up my papers.
Okay.
yeah, so they were printed out for her. So you don't have this, you don't have the June 8th copy?
No, I don't. I have six for.
They were all emailed. They were emailed to us, Michelle.
Okay,
Excuse me.
perfect.
I have it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave, just reviewed them and had a few questions, and for Jen's going to go over them. And again, some of these are just for clarification, not only for myself, but for the community, just to explain where some of these funds go and what we're spending the money on. So Jen, if you can do your thing, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Andre and Sons, $18,748, and Genesis Turf Grass for $5,201. Those are both expenses for the country club, course maintenance expenses. They're for chemicals and fertilizer. We buy a bulk order in the early spring to take advantage of early bird pricing. We are paying for that bulk order. They give us a month or two to pay for that. We do place some additional orders for chemicals and fertilizer throughout the season, and we spend approximately $30,000 in chemicals, $15,000 in fertilizer, and $5,000 in seed each year for the course. Environmental engineer, management associates, there's an $11,996 invoice. These were some pump repair invoices. The invoice is actually dated from September 2019. The invoice unfortunately never made it to its final destination to get paid. So this is payment of a back invoice. There are some park and rec refund fees. These are for canceled events due to the pandemic, both for canceled pavilion and Dunn Center rentals and some playground programs. We process most of these through the credit card program, refunds directly back to people's credit cards. There's sometimes a few instances where we can't process it back to the credit card. Maybe the person's credit card number changed or whatever. And then we cut them a manual check. So there's a few on this one. There's an invoice for $1,585 to Awesome Signs for vinyl lettering. That was for vinyl door wrap and lettering for the new police vehicle that we received. And there was two invoices to ITE Fire Apparatus LLC. One was for $19,539. The other one's for $13,647. They were for repairs to the Exeter Fire Department tower truck. We had agreed to pay for these somewhat significant repairs out of the fire apparatus fund instead of the fire company paying for them directly. So those are coming from the fire apparatus fund.
Thank you, Jen. Actually, at the tower, I was like, what tower do we have? So I saw on there for the repair of the tower. I'm like, okay, what am I missing here?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Exeter Eiffel Tower, right?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Did you have a motion or did, maybe I just missed that?
We had a motion at the beginning. Greg.
Greg,
made-
yeah, Greg, I second it. Greg
Okay,
made the
sounds good.
motion.
Thank you.
Okay, unfinished business, monthly right to know report for May. That was posted to the website. I think there were a few less than normal, but still a healthy amount. I don't know, anyone have any comments on that report?
I think Tina's doing a good job despite the circumstances, trying to get the ones together. So that's just a special call out to her.
Yep, only one extension. Everything was done in a short period of time.
Yeah.
I believe it was one.
I think so. Very good. All right, moving on to monthly golf report. I don't know, Clarence, you want to make any comments? Or Joe, you're heading the part of the golf committee, so I don't know if you or John want to make any comments?
No, just during the comments, I'll just kind of go over or you want me to make the comments now? Just kind of you want me to do it now?
Sure. I mean, I think the report's self-explanatory. We put it
Right.
out every month, but I think there's some noteworthy things there.
Right. Just real quick, I'll just go over it instead of at the end of the meeting. A few changes. One, the Snack Shack did open on May 18th. The range was opened on May 23rd. 52 of the new carts from the lease came in. They're very nice, by the way. There's 13 more pending delivery. We've had a tremendous amount of positive feedback on the course. I played in the tournament over the weekend. It's the first time I played since the beginning of the year before COVID. Course is in excellent shape. We started with the revised rates, which will be the normal rates on 6/6. Township residents will be and seniors will be receiving $5 off the posted rates. As far as the month of May, we're up slightly over 300 rounds year over year for May, so that was great. We've changed the tee times from 12 minutes to 10, so the interval because of lessening and moving it to the yellow, so it's not quite as people were able to have a little bit more flexibility going into the pro shop. And over the weekend, 287 rounds. Derek said they brought in $12,000. So again, a lot of positive news. I know that we did lose some trees. Dave, you probably have more information on that from the storm, but so that's the golf course news.
Yeah, I heard it was quite an impact. Now, actually, been out of town, so I haven't seen that.
Yeah, there was, I think, at least 6 fairly large trees.
Wow.
Along
There's
with
still-
a lot of branches.
They're still working on it today.
Yeah, they're still working. Yeah.
So hopefully we get continued good weather to keep the rounds up so we get out of our hole.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's another good comment is the COVID impact. I mean, I think, for Clarence and Jen, it would be good for keeping track, I think, of a COVID impact number. I mean, there's an impact on the cost of doing business, even now that we're open, and certainly while we were closed, having to run single carts, extra
Yeah.
to sanitize. It would be nice to have, the April, May, June, just a COVID impact number.
And then to put those dates, Dave, that Joe just said, we open the snack bar at this date, just say we have the history.
Right. They would be good to.
Yeah, those are excellent data points that we need when we're dissecting this.
Yeah. Very good. If not, let's move on. Any other comments on golf report?
I might as well get this out here now since we're talking about the golf. Just an FYI on the one Kubota tractor. It won't be long and they're going to be looking to replace that. They have a couple of large expenses they're going to have to put out if they don't. So I would imagine Brian's going to be asking here somewhere down the road. about replace. He already has it on the list, but he's probably going to be asking to replace it.
Okay, and I think at the right time. I mean, it was, I think it was in the budget. It was asked for last year, was put in the budget again for 2020.
Yeah.
And like we've done with the police cars and, at least how I feel about this is when we get to serious repairs and we know something's 15 plus years old or whatever, throwing money away after trying to keep something running as opposed to moving forward and improving productivity and stop, wasting the money is the way to go. But yeah, I just say, keep those numbers. Larry will keep them in front of us. So when we get those repair costs, that would be my call, is to let us know when we are coming up on serious repairs. Any other comments from anyone?
No, I agree. I hate throwing money on old equipment.
Yeah, we've had that with some of the cars and vehicles, and it's a losing battle, but okay, we'll do the best we can. Continuation of the discussion on the architect needs analysis. We talked about this a little bit already. I mean, I've already kind of said, some of the background, and where we wound up with a pretty healthy discussion last week was to go out and say, we think we know what we need. I think we know what we need, but analyses were done. Clarence probably has the most experience with this. So, I think following up on what we asked you to do, Clarence, or the administration to do, maybe you can give us an update.
Yeah, what I did was, the board said about asking us to look into this. We did call KCBA and ask them if they could do just on an hourly basis. And I believe you all have these sheets. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's on the SharePoint.
Yeah. So they broke it down pretty well into phase 1, phase 2, 3, and 4. So, you can move along at a pace that isn't too rushed. You can start at least looking at what the needs are, and that's what the first phase is. And I'm not going to read all this stuff that they sent you, but it pretty much tells you there. Hopefully you've all looked at it. Everything that we would want them to look at for like the first phase to move into it and see what our needs are here and see what they can, do for us also up there. And that's what this is about.
And one comment, I guess, I would make, at least in my mind, and others could clarify this, but I mean, I don't think, I think one of the public comments was that we were awarding or picking a contract. We went out and solicited contracts, yes, to help us design something. It's not what we're doing here. Now we're saying, where we became aware during those discussions of past work that was done, and that happened to be done by KCBA. Now it's like, well, we first look at everything. We're not awarding a contract for a project at the Promenade here. We're trying to bring the public into the discussion, gather some more data, show that, put on paper that what is actually needed in my mind, and doing that low cost on an hourly basis. So that's my take.
Just a little history here. Over the last year or so, some of us here and the staff, we were asked to go and look at some of the other township, the newer township buildings. And that's what we did. And several of them were KCBA built buildings, and they were quite nice. They did a beautiful job with their police departments. And that's probably the most difficult part of what you do with these buildings is the police department. That probably takes the most money because of the security end of it. And there's no question they put a ton of thought into it. So that's another reason I think KCBA was a good choice, even though we're not the ones that made that choice. You guys did, but just passing out.
Clarence, what about the videos that we talked about 2 weeks ago? Making
About doing
videos
them?
of like a walkthrough,
Yeah.
the police, the
no,
fire,
we
and the
done
highway.
it. Yeah, well, like the police, I'm not sure what, you're gonna have to ask the chief about that, what he's willing to let you.
Yeah, with a security
it.
standpoint.
Yeah, I don't know what he's gonna let you do. You're gonna have to talk to him about that. But the rest of it, we can do.
Okay. When's that going to be done, you think? Go ahead, Chief.
I was just saying, it's not a problem. There's certain areas, of course, that we can't show. But I mean, I think we can walk through certain areas and just show the need that currently exists for the officers in regards to dedicated interview rooms, which we currently don't have. We have an interview room that's also shared as a conference room, a separate interview room for juveniles, certain things that we need, a larger evidence room, which is a must. We're outgrowing our evidence room as it currently exists and looking at expanding into a gym or a weight room there and moving the weight room out just because we don't have the space. So, I mean, I think, you know, it could work. We just certain things we couldn't show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
understood.
I'm thinking Mr. Gottschall, Detective Gottschall could help us out with a lot of this filming as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be helpful for communication purposes.
Okay.
I guess a couple other ones. I mean, Michelle, last week and this, we brought up a very good issue about the fire department and location. I think that would be part of these discussions. Also heard someone mention, maybe John, about, you know, the vision in the past. And, you know, I mean, part of that is just when you look at what we've been offered. I mean, people already hear these discussions and they want to purchase, you know, our existing site. You know, it's a valuable site. We've been told that by others. No one's at all interested in the Promenade. And part of that vision from the past, a year or so ago, was to put a township facility where, you know, we have an area of town that is not interesting to a lot of retail or other businesses. So that was part of that in the past. And then I think beyond that vision, it's like, okay, there are no hard and fast cost numbers on this. That's what we wanted to work with to try to get them to. And we don't have them. So I know a lot of, you know, residents would ask me, or probably ask all the supervisors or township staff, what's it going to cost? I mean, I would say more of what can we afford? We will determine what we can afford, but if we don't know what each thing costs, it's kind of hard to choose that. You know, and I guess the last thing for Clarence, I think what you're doing right now and these discussions on the needs analysis is really, you know, it's not, you know, approving a contract. It's a, you know, a professional service. You bring in consultants all the time to do this sort of thing. So you're doing that in the most cost efficient way you can.
And one other thing I'd like to mention that I don't think we've ever brought it up, but and this has been going back a couple of years when we were trying to find somebody for the Promenade before we even purchased it. Everybody at the big stores all said the same thing. They will not purchase a place where you can't come off and go right into. In other words, they would have to make a U-turn or get off at East Neversink, and most people don't know about that. Where this place, you know, you can come from east or west 422 and come right in here, where you wouldn't be able to do that up there. And that was one of the reasons most of those big stores would not go to the old Giant.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we need any kind of motion, or is Clarence just able to proceed? It's a professional service, right?
Professional service, but it's up to you guys if you want. You can still make a motion if you want to, but either way, I can do it.
I'm fine just proceeding then.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to get the data. And like I say, I'm not saying we don't have any data. There's a vision and we know the facilities we need, but, you know, we don't have all the data in hand, but that's what was going to be developed and built. And the location decision, I think we've covered that.
And we, as you guys have directed, we've already talked. I've talked to the chief, Jen Savage, Will, and Larry, and myself. So, and obviously when the new manager comes on board, this would be something like a group, and then hopefully some of you guys, you board members, I'm sorry, keep calling you guys. Some of you board members could get involved in this as well.
Yeah,
And Dave, just,
very good point, Clarence, about the new manager coming on board. Yeah, and that was mentioned as well by someone.
hey, Dave, just comment again. I'm very hesitant to proceed, and again, too, I am not in any way questioning the needs, because I did, the only thing I was not able to tour was the fire departments because of COVID. When it was scheduled, it was, I wasn't able to get there. I'm just, the overall financial situation, I'm very concerned with where we're going to be. I do believe that whatever we do, that the township manager needs to be at the forefront. That individual may or may not be. We're going to be discussing that next. And also too, to be able for them to take a look at the current facility as opposed to the next. I'm just concerned. I didn't see hourly. I thought I saw lump sum, but at this point in time, I still don't think we're in position, not knowing exactly what's going on financially with the township and our resources to be moving forward. I think the thing to do is to get the videos so everyone can see it, have an opportunity to see exactly what it is. The township manager, assuming he's hired or she is hired, to come in, to talk with everyone, feel where they're comfortable as far as this is where we can be, just like everything we have as far as from a facility. What do we need to do? What can we do? You know, we keep talking about the promenade with, you know, limited value. Look, we're not going to get revisionist historians here. What's done is done. And Mr. Granger's not here as far as whatever vision he may or not have had. I personally do not think it is the time to move forward with the project. That's just my opinion.
And I agree too. And if they're going to do any work, we need to have a written scope out and a price, and that's going to take a while. And a new manager would have to definitely be involved in anything.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement about the manager, that if and when we hire a manager tonight.
List is here.
But the rates are there. Yeah, I mean, the rates are there, Michelle.
And I think it's page 5.
I haven't seen them. I haven't.
Okay, well, they're in your mailbox. They're in your SharePoint. I mean,
I didn't know they were in SharePoint. Nobody.
Look at them.
Look
at them. You're retired now.
John.
Sorry.
I'm going to waste a lot of time on stuff with meetings.
Okay. All right, Michelle, let's move on.
From what we're hearing, I think we move on. I mean, I think all we've had now so far is discussions. We're going to be talking about township manager in a little while. And I don't think it's certainly unreasonable to wait till that person's on board. So for now.
Yeah, this person's going to have to lead it. So I'm fine sitting down with the manager and explaining where we were, where we're at, and then this person takes the lead.
And again, I want you to know that I do know that, you know, Clarence and Larry took me for a tour of the facility, and the chief took me for a tour of their facility. So I am in no way not saying I do not support doing something because we need it. I just think that there needs to be a different process.
There in the background. Okay. We good to move on?
Yep.
Discussion on the RFP reviews for Township Solicitor. Clarence, I think this is a similar one you were requesting just because of transitions, Township Manager, or everything else going on. I think we were requesting, or the administration was requesting, that we get 2 supervisors. Obviously, we can't all sit down and just chat about this anytime, but 2 supervisors maybe to work with the Township Manager, current and future, to recommend the path forward, what makes sense from a workability standpoint.
Yeah, I just felt that we're all halfway through the year already. All the big crazy stuff is over with, as far as, you know, the JMH and even the sale of the treatment plant. That was some large expenses there, but that really didn't have anything to do with Sam. I mean, that was just stuff that was required by them to do. So I just feel there's an awful lot of things we still have coming that they're gonna still have to finish for us. So you just gonna be jumping back and forth anyway. So I just felt that it might be a good idea just to wait till the end of the year, or, you know, once the new manager comes on board, maybe he wants to make a change right away.
The one thing I would say to that is you have a new manager coming on board, establishing a working relationship. If there is going to be a new solicitor, might as well establish that working relationship right from the get-go. That's the alternative to that.
Yep. So is that,
We have to be careful that 2 of the bids were some of the sins of the past, as I like to call it. So we just have to be careful when we are picking there's 2 bids that we have to kind of talk about.
I
when we
think
get to that point.
normally the way we do this, I mean, not the way we do this, but I mean, I think what can be efficient is for, you know, 2 supervisors to go off in a committee and work on this and come back and report to the board recommendations from discussions with the administration and, you know, everyone involved and reviewing the RFPs, and it's a little work to do there.
I've done this before, Dave. I'm happy to do so. I did review all of the RFPs. So I'm able to do if you would want me to.
Available to do it.
Any volunteers are appreciated.
I will.
Michelle?
And I'll send notes on the 2 that we have to be very careful of.
Okay,
So we're down to, you know, we got 5 bids, so there'll be 3 that we look at.
very good. So Joe and Michelle will work.
I like to go back over all 5.
Well, yeah,
That's fine. I'll send you the notes on the other 2.
Yeah.
I think you know, but I'll remind you.
Okay, any comments? Go directly to that group. Very good. New business. We're going to jump, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to jump to discussion and appointment of township manager. I think what we want to do here is, you know, we've had a very extensive, the board has worked, had an extensive search process, partnering with Paul Jansen from the Center of Excellence of Local Government. I think it went quite well, but I think Paul can join us here, and I think he's going to give us a little history of what we've done, where we're at, and where it looks like we're going, and then we have some items for consideration. So Paul, are you on?
I'm not sure I've connected, but I think I've just got on.
Okay, I hear you.
Hi, Paul.
Good afternoon,
Paul.
good evening. I've gone through the entire day now. I'm not sure. Okay, let me get the video on. There we go. Everybody see me now?
I see ya.
Yep.
We're good? All
Yeah,
right.
Paul.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to conclude the process of the township manager recruitment and selection. And I offered to provide a summary of the very extensive steps that the Board of Supervisors for Exeter Township has taken in the process of selecting the new township manager. I would note that we've done this in 5 other municipalities, 4 in Berks County, 1 outside of Berks County. And 2 of the municipalities are large municipalities, just like Exeter is, and they're very pleased with their manager. Actually, all 4 are very pleased with their manager, but the 2 large ones are also pleased. So the process started back in January, very late. We had a meeting with the board to review the scope of services and what they were looking for in a manager. And that's very critical because a manager can be a secretary form of manager in a commission where they kind of do the work of just organizing the work for the supervisors to be involved, or to provide for a manager that the board wants to task with actually implementing all of their policies and executing the administrative work for the township. And the board has chosen that they would like to have a manager who takes the policies from the board and execute. So immediately we placed advertisements in the International City Managers Association, the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, and the Pennsylvania League of Municipalities. And those ICMA is an international group. PSATS is the Pennsylvania Township Supervisors Association. And of course, Pennsylvania League of Municipalities represents a bunch of different forms of government, but they also represent large municipalities like Exeter. That ad ran for approximately 6 weeks, and on March 20th, it was completed. I want to highlight that the board was looking for 10 to 15 years of senior municipal experience. They wanted local government management principles of today, not 1980 or 1975, but today, 2020. They're looking for a strong financial person, and they were looking for somebody who is strong in planning and land development. They wanted a bachelor's degree, but preferred a master's degree. And in the process, we asked for the candidates to answer 5 written questions so that we could see their writing skills, but also the answers to their questions gave the supervisors some insight into some of the issues that were active in the township, but also gave them background on the person so that as they move forward, they can see what their answers were and make sure that their performance when they come to Exeter matches what their questions say and their answers are. So that brought us to the March 20th process. Does anybody have any comments at this point?
No.
Okay.
Well,
We received 24 applicants. One of the good news parts of this process is that, you know, we keep it on the professional journal site so we don't get a lot of people who are not qualified to be managers. And of the 24 applicants, as we got through the process, 15 were received as qualified for the position based on the criteria that I gave you. Of those 15 applicants, I did direct interviews with each of them. It would be the candidate itself on a telephone call. And those calls quantified 14 questions, all answered or all were asked the same questions. And in each case, they took anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. And I asked them to be very thorough in their answers so that we knew that we had every part of their process done. So when I finished the 15 interviews with the applicants, I advised the Board of Supervisors that they had 11 fully qualified candidates. Now, when I say fully qualified, they hit all of those criteria that we talked about before, and they didn't have anything on their records that would indicate that there was a problem with them, such as internet searches, things like that. I talked about a number of the candidates with my professional background because a lot of them knew some of the candidates. So, but we had 11 fully qualified on paper. And I gave the board those 11 ranked. I gave all of the candidates, but I gave them those 11 ranked. It's at this point that I kind of step back and turn it over to the Board of Supervisors with the evaluation that I do for them. The board picked 5 of the candidates to be interviewed, and they did it by Zoom. And so I was on the board, I was on the call. I asked the questions so the board could really focus on what they were hearing and they could see the candidates. But that interview process was really about, you know, is that a candidate who they can work well with? Are they comfortable with? And where are they at in that process? And so I would say that we got through there, and the board together was unanimous on the 3 candidates that they wanted to do a follow-up interview on. I think that's significant that they were unanimous in the process, and they did conduct the follow-up second round of interviews with the candidates. This time they were in person in the township building, spread out in the meeting room. I was on the computer by Zoom asking the questions again, and this time the interviews were around an hour and 15 minutes, sometimes an hour and 30 minutes. But the board was present in the room to really kind of evaluate the candidates as what they saw and the questions and how they answered them. In the process of the two interviews, the candidates were offered or asked over 25 questions, and they consistently, each of them were asked, even though there may have been some change-up follow-up questions. But all of that issue was processed. When we finished those interviews, the board was together on their recommendation of who they needed to offer a further review, and also to conduct a extensive background. I want to really quickly give you the components of the background check, because it's a binder. I'll try to hold it up here, but you can see it. This is the candidate's binder, and it's probably 75 pages of information. But the firm that does the background on them does their criminal history, does their civil history, does their credit history, does the driver history. They actually verify their education to make sure that they got the degrees that they said they got. And then they did a employment history background. And that's where it got really detailed, because then they did interviews. And in the case of your candidate, they did 34 professional interviews over positions that this person has held in the last 20 years. As you know, I reviewed the summary of those reports, and they'll be turned over to your solicitor so that they will maintain that background evaluation. But I'll just give you a couple of highlights of what I saw, and I reported to you repeatedly in their interviews. Your candidate is very helpful. He's honest and trustworthy. He's knowledgeable. He's professional. He's a team player. This one's a good one. He's got integrity. He's a good guy, and he's got a strong work ethic. In my discussions with the candidate, and I've had a lot more contact than you guys have had, because I've been processing this process and getting him to this point. You have a candidate who's very ethical. And as you know, I asked you to build into his employment agreement that he would adhere to the International City Manager's ethics statement. And that's a real standard for you. And it's also a standard for your candidate, that you'll get ethical performance by him. It's part of his evaluation. And so very important for him to adhere to those principles. You have somebody who is forthright and has excellent demonstrated communication skills. That came through repeatedly in his background review. And you have somebody who has 20 years of senior management, local government, and local governments in Pennsylvania. And that's not to say that, I guess I should go back and say that you did interview two candidates from out of state, and one candidate progressed into the next stage, but didn't make it past that. So it's not like we didn't look at candidates not solely in the in the southeastern Pennsylvania areas. We had them from a good area. So the final stage of this thing was working through his employment agreement, which you have before you tonight. And I am very excited about this candidate and the work he's going to do for Exeter Township and for your staff. I guess I shared with you a lot of the comments that his subordinates had made about him, a couple of his positions. And so I think your staff is going to be in really good care with the kind of manager that you've hired. But with that, I'd like to turn it back over to Dave Speece. And Dave, let you do the honors.
Yeah, comments from the rest of the board first, I guess, and then we'll look at making a motion here.
Yeah, Paul, just one clarification. When we had the 3 in the township building, in-person interviews,
Yes.
we did do presentations. I don't know if you want to mention that.
I'm sorry, Judge.
mention that.
That's excellent. Go ahead and please.
Yeah, what we did as a board, we decided, that was Greg's idea, to have them do a 10 to 15-minute presentation. We gave them a topic, and the 3 of them had to actually perform by doing a presentation, putting together a PowerPoint slide, putting together the presentation. So I think we learned a lot. We learned their communication skills. We learned their timeline skills, because they didn't have all that much time to put together the presentation. And we also learned what they did in terms of the research on the township. Several of them, they were all good, and we kind of hit on many topics that we saw through the presentation. So I think it was a good part of the process, not only the interviews, but actually having them do the homework assignment during the COVID crisis and having them actually present at the township building. I think I learned a lot from the 3 presentations that I saw from that round of interviews. So kudos to Greg for that idea.
Thank you, John.
Any other comments from anyone else?
I want to just say it was a very extensive process, and I feel very confident we got the right guy.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg. With that, I mean, I think because there is one outstanding item, so I mean, I'd like to make the motion to hire Jeff Bartlett pending satisfactory completion of his physical and drug testing, and hiring him at a salary of $120,000. With an anticipated start date, I believe, would be only about a week from now.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. One other order of business. Paul brought this up about Southeast Asia, where we look for candidates. We had 24 or whatever number of candidates. I know this has been a bone of contention with residents and a lot of others, and ideally, yes, we'd like to hire someone from down the street, and we did our best. That was one of our criteria, but not the #1 criteria. So while Jeff is not currently living in the area, he is certainly close enough where he has a track record, an impeccable track record of being in the area wherever he's been working around Southeast Asia.
Asia?
So, what's that?
That's you, Dave.
Asia?
That's you, Dave, when you were at Dow Chemical. That's China, Dave, when you were at Dow Chemical.
I was talking about something else. What did I say?
You're talking about your history. You said Southeast Asia.
Oh, no, sorry. Southeast Pennsylvania. Sorry. I spent too much time there.
That's right.
Yes, I know.
Southeast Pennsylvania. So apologize for that. But we do have, I believe we have an ordinance that says we have to approve out of township residency. Extend that to Jeff and let him make his decisions on exactly where he's going to be. So I would make that motion to vote to approve his out of township residency.
And I will second that.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Dave, I just want to make a comment on that as someone who has put a lot of miles in through the years, that mileage really isn't the key. It's whether or not the individual is willing to do the job. The one thing that for Jeff with his history is he has been at the job every single day, and the previous employers, and there were, I mean, long runs at places, different municipalities, never had any issue whatsoever. In fact, I believe the comment was there was one time he wasn't at work, and that's because the roads were closed. Which there's a lot to say for that. I can tell you that, we put a mileage restriction in, but you can be in Philadelphia and go 10 miles down the road and it takes you 2 hours to get there. So I believe that we're in an era where it's a different time as far as employment, and I am not as concerned. Again, my personal history, and I've seen it happen. I'm not as concerned about that, especially too when we've done such an extensive background check, and there has never been one incident brought up where Jeff was not at work on time and before everyone else. So I just think that's important, and I wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, very good point, Joe. And I would say also from the references, where, some people will say if you're not local, you're not skin in the game, but skin in the game is your job and your reputation, yes, or you don't survive. But it really came up through, I think, a lot of his references and backgrounds checks that, people would not know he was not local in his past and current position. So that was very relevant to the decisions we made.
Yeah, I agree with Joe. I think the times have changed, and we're going to hold him accountable. And I think this is, to Greg's point, I think this is the right guy. I think he brings a wealth of knowledge and ethical values. So I think we did a great job, and I think I want to thank Paul for doing a wonderful job, kind of walking us through the whole process. It was a great process and went well, very seamless, and we worked together as a board and found the right person.
Great, thank you. Well, we had a first and a second. Any further comments?
I too would like to thank Paul for doing the whole thing for managers research. He found the good ones.
Yeah, very professional, excellent, and I think it's as with all the classes at the Center of Excellence of Local Government, it's been very beneficial to us all. So thank you, Paul.
Yeah. Us and the whole county. Thank you.
Yeah. First and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. I think without further ado, Laura, you're going to have Jeff join us.
Yes, I was just about to ask.
Dave, while you're waiting for him to come on to the screen, I just would like to speak to the residents of Exeter Township in terms of really experiencing you as a board coming together in this process and how you made your provided your direction and made your decisions. And I think it bodes very well for Exeter Township to now add the new manager to this process. But you guys really did yeoman's work pulling the process and being able to be clear and concise in what you wanted and how you wanted to pursue it. And that you came together in one voice as we went through it. And I think that's really an excellent statement for the township as you guys now bring your manager online and the final piece of your management process. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Dave and Jeff is on now.
Hello.
Hi, Jeff. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate the kind comments that the board made for me. I'm really excited about this position. Paul did a fantastic job as a recruiter going through the process. Again, he mentioned the various interviews and discussions we had, but there were also the little emails and the follow-ups on everything that was extremely professional. And I'm sure all the candidates were treated equally as well. It was a very good process. I'm really excited about coming to the township. There's a lot of great things going on there. And it's just a great feeling to know that you're ready to have a new person come in and work with you and work with the residents. I will be there. I will assure everyone I will be at the township with ample time to spare. It's been my experience to commute to some of my positions. But again, the comment of missing work was when the governor shut down the turnpike and all the other major highways. And I couldn't make my 75-mile trip to Bristol Township. So this commute will be fine. It's mostly highway drive, and I'm very excited about coming in. If all goes well, I will be at the Township building next Monday.
Great.
Excited to have you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Jeff.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
My fan club.
Congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks again, Paul.
All right. Thanks, Paul and Jeff.
Thank you all.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you. Looking forward to working with you, Jeff.
I'll sign off. Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Thanks.
Good night. Good night.
Right.
And let me make I want to make another comment here, and other people can chime in, but I want to thank Clarence and the entire staff. But I mean, Clarence stepped in here when we had a hand or two tied behind her back a few months ago, and has done a fantastic job. And I think he's had us guessing whether or not we needed to continue our search for a while. I think he still wants to retire at some point. But I really want to point out the fantastic job that, I mean, I think Clarence been keeping us informed all the time, keeps me informed, and the rest of the supervisors. I think Jen, Laurie, everyone else. So don't
You
want
got good staff here.
to overlook that.
Yeah, I think the whole staff deserves credit, as well as Michelle Gilbert,
Great.
who had kind of transitioned us to this point, the work that she did from January, February, March.
Okay.
I agree, so thank you.
Thank you. You hear some stuff in the background there.
Yeah, I think, Jeff, you need to log out of the system now.
Oh, that is Jeff.
Yep. I think his phone, I think he got a congratulations call.
Oh,
So he's still on there. So he would have to be moved off the meeting for now.
taking care of that, Laurie?
Yep.
Okay.
There we
Bye,
go.
Jeff.
Cool.
Very good. All right, and I think we're back to approve the final reimbursement agreement with Mount Penn Borough Municipal Authority, and this is related to the Butter Lane Culvert. I think, Joe, you're going to cover this?
Yes, I could explain a little bit. Part of the Butter Lane project, we have Mount Penn Borough Water Authority's water main that's will be in direct conflict with our new culvert. When we had our utility coordination meeting, Mount Penn Water would prefer, instead of them performing the relocation, since they're in our legal right-of-way, they would prefer to have our contractor perform the work to allow for continuity and less downtime and coordination. In return, Mount Penn would agree to pay for the cost that would be incurred for such relocation. In order to do this, we had to establish a reimbursement agreement between Mount Penn Borough Water Authority and the township, which is in front of us this evening. Solicitor's offices have been working with the solicitor for Mount Penn Borough Water Authority, and they came to an agreement that tonight for a reimbursement agreement, which includes an estimated cost. It'll be based on what the actual cost is once we receive bids for the project. But we're looking for the board to enter into this agreement this evening so that we could proceed to have Mount Penn reimburse us at such time when the work is completed.
Thanks, Joe. I guess you need a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the final reimbursement agreement with Mount Penn Borough Municipal Authority.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe. Community Park follow-up. Clarence, we had a good discussion on this last time. I think you got some more information for us.
Yeah, I did not come up with a price as far as repairs yet. I really would like the board, some of you board members, to at least look at this, the inside, and take a good look at this pavilion before I actually do that. As far as taking, say, just leveling the restroom area and taking down that pavilion, between labor, landfill costs and everything else, you're probably talking about $8 grand or something like that, somewhere right around $8,000 bucks. But so I did not do the repair thing yet. I agree. I think Joe said about putting a tin roof on. Were you talking the pavilion or the restroom area?
I was looking at the pavilion, Clarence, and like I said, I'm happy to. I said I toured the facility. I just didn't get inside, but I'll do that when I get back in town from work. Okay.
Yeah. The big pavilion, the poles themselves are just old poles. That's all they are. They're old utility poles. I'm not sure how much extra weight we would be adding with the tin roof. It's something I have no idea how to come up with that one, but I'm sure we can get that through a roofing, like ABC or something, roofing. But my other concern would be with those huge rocks that are right next to the pavilion. I don't think we can move them. And without moving them, and you put a lot of money into that roof, you can't keep the kids off the roof. And I think they're just gonna do what they've done in the past, and that is knock holes in it. Especially if we put a new tin roof on it. I'm not sure how to keep them off of there. It's very easy to get on that roof from those rocks. It's very simple. The kids do it all the time. And as far as the restroom area, again, we touched on this in the beginning of the meeting. I think it's beyond repair. I really would like some of you guys to look at this just before I spend a lot of time on trying to refinish it.
Clarence, I can go out there with you this week. My week is pretty empty.
All right. Well, I'm only here till Wednesday. Thursday, I'm going to Virginia. But
all right, I'll call you first thing tomorrow.
But yeah, so I would definitely like some of you guys to look at this if you would.
Yeah. Hey, Clarence, the other thing is, I know we talked about it the other day when I came in and signed some papers. I think it'd be a good to share for not only the board, but also to the community, the damage that has been done and what you've done to repair it. Yeah. I know I had a couple, conversations with a couple school board members and community members, because everybody loves the place. But, here we are almost as we're sitting here paying for someone else's house to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult situation, because I think just about every one of us has had kids with pizza parties or played tennis or whatever there. It's a great facility, but where do you draw the line of repairing your neighbor's house?
Yeah, and I think in the older days, I think a lot of that is true, but today, I think your biggest users are the people from the city of Reading. And if you go down there on a Saturday and a Sunday, it's quite obvious.
Yeah, Clarence, I think I shared with you and Laurie, I was down there on a weeknight and there was 50 or 60 people there basically hanging out, having a party, crowded under the pavilion all over. It was certainly not social distancing and not really treating the property very well. So, I don't know, even if it was a low cost to repair, I don't know that it's as we talked with policing it and everything else, it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, I would rather invest in Trout Run and the other parks that are in Exeter. Again, this is just we just keep bleeding money here.
And I know Lori doesn't want to talk about this, and we won't get into details. what they did either, I guess, Sunday or probably over the weekend. Some of the stuff they did outside the restroom was disgusting. So,
we have posted we've posted, Clarence, on social media before the damage that was done last year, just to show residents that it's a mess.
3 or 4 sinks. They tore the whole fan assembly off the roof.
Yeah. We posted that last year on social media.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just to show Joe
even the small playground area that's left over. That I don't know what they called it. It's like it just zigzags back and forth for kids to sit on it, and it's got this large table on it. It's a nightmare for germs. I guess when it was built, it was, maybe a good idea, but it's not a good idea now. And some of the other toys that are there with kids playing in them, their time has gone by.
Okay, well, let's all get down there if possible, see the facility, and like I said, I'll be able to get there before the next meeting, Clarence, and we can discuss it. But it seems like there's a consensus that
I just don't have
a whole lot
any
of money
answers
into it's not the right thing.
I don't have any good answers as far as repairing. I really just think you should look at it, and if we're not going to do anything with it, even if we're going to keep the grass, say we did level it, and just keep the area for, you could keep the basketball court. Nothing says you can't do that. The tennis courts obviously belong to the school district. Just have it as a large area for if people want to go down there and have a picnic. But the one thing I think we should look at is maybe we'll talk to the school. If we're not going to keep it up as a playground area, we should see about getting out of that lease.
Yeah. Agree, because we still have liability.
Because yeah, we're still liable for anything that happens.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for following up, and I guess Joe will get down there, Greg's gonna get down, and
Okay.
Yeah, I'll call you, Clarence, to
All
try
right.
to get down there as well.
Yeah.
All right.
I can walk there.
Thank you.
there as well. It was good. Good to see. Okay, authorize advertisement of telecommunication design manual. Laurie, I think you're gonna give us a little background.
Yep, I can cover this. So this is related to the updates to the telecommunications ordinance that the engineering department Will has been working on. So this piece of it is just an update to the language in the manual. It's really just to provide guidelines for the aesthetics on devices that are being put out, and it's based on recommendations that are being made by the FCC. So what we're asking for tonight is just a motion authorizing advertisement of the design manual.
Thanks, Laurie.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Update on the Community Communications Committee.
Laurie, I'm going to probably turn most of this over to Laurie. She did a great job putting together the first electronic newsletter that I think it's ready to go. Laurie, is that correct?
Yep, it is all ready to go. So, and we are up to 341 contacts. And what I'm hoping to do, what my intent is after tonight when we discuss this and you give me the go ahead to send the newsletter out, I can then do a social media campaign with the newsletter as well, so I can post it to try to get some more interest in signing up for the mailing list.
Good idea.
One thing she and I talked about was possibly sending a postcard or something like that to all the residents to make sure they're aware of the change in communication method.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good idea. Is that, I mean, I guess a postcard is usually at a lower cost than mailing out certainly the newsletter.
Yes, and we can post the newsletter on the website so they can take a look at what it looks like, but then also it would give them direction on how to sign up to get the newsletter.
Yep.
Good.
Yep, that's right.
So that's really it, right, Laurie? Anything else with communications?
No, that's about it. So we're pretty set to go on that, and that will continue as Greg and I talked about. You'll all see the first edition here. It will continue to improve as we go on and we get suggestions and feedback. So then, Greg, I know that we discussed a little bit. I'll get some quotes and find out how much it will cost to do a postcard to everybody who's currently on our hard copy mailing list. So then we'll just need to come back and have a discussion about what that's going to look like going forward. But we discussed having people opt in to receiving a mailed paper copy.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. I think one of the challenges with this, as she showed me, and we worked on this, is there's not a whole lot of stuff to report because of COVID. Yeah. You know, if the newsletter says this was canceled, this was canceled, this was canceled. I think the groups did a good job of bringing stuff that residents want to be aware of, but I think whenever we get back to a more normal time, the newsletter will be much improved as well. Mm-hmm. Again, the idea of this is to be proactive and communicate things before they happen. That's the goal with this. And one of the big advantages doing electronically is it can get out to the residents very quickly. Whereas if you're printing a newsletter and mailing it and so forth, it takes a couple weeks to go through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was always, that's been a struggle that I've had just personally since I've been writing the newsletter. You collect all of the information and you're always at risk when you put dates in for anything because we're at the mercy of the Postal Service and it might get there. Some residents might get it in 2 days and some other residents get it in 2 weeks. Or I had a lot that would call me and say they never got it at all. So that is a challenge. So an email, an electronic newsletter gives me a much greater ability to make sure that people are getting the information that they need when they actually need it before dates pass.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Great, large cost savings as well, right?
Yeah. Yep. So I do want to take a moment to thank Lori for all her work. When she showed me her initial draft, it was very good. You know, we tweaked it a little bit, but I thought she did a really good job through the whole process.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Lori.
Great job.
All right, is that it? Move on. Department reports. Chief?
I just want to say it's been a trying time for law enforcement here these last couple of weeks with protests erupting around the country and even around Berks County. I know our officers have been called to assist other agencies in their response to protest situations, and they've done an excellent job. The community has been overwhelmingly supportive of our police department. I can't tell you how many emails and social media posts have been put out there thanking our officers for what they've been through and the work that they've done. I think it's a direct reflection on the excellent work that the men and women of the police department do each and every day. And so it's been great to get those words of encouragement in such a trying time. I know one of the things that we want to look at as an agency is ensuring that our officers have the protective equipment they need. Our officers currently don't have any sort of riot protective equipment, shields, face masks, ballistic helmets. So that's something I know in the future that we want to take a look at to make sure that our officers have the equipment they need if something happens to protect themselves. So I think that's something I just want to put out there for consideration at a later date. But again, it's just been the support we've received has just been phenomenal, and I want to thank the residents for that.
Chief, what about on the other side of it, sensitivity training, so that we don't have a cop that would do what was done? Is there any works in the plans for next year to get some sensitivity training, racial training with the cops? I think you're on mute.
Can't hear you.
I can't hear it. I can't. I think he's on mute. Or his mic's not working.
Looks like it's.
You hear me now?
Yep.
There we go.
Sorry, we lost you.
Since the host muted me.
I muted you for a second to try to unmute you.
I was asking about sensitivity racial training for the police department.
Oh, I can't hear the chief.
Yeah, I think he's having technical issues.
There we go.
There, okay, try it again, chief.
It's cutting in and out. I just want to say the previous position with the state police, I was in charge of their Heritage Affairs unit, and it was a unit that provided bias-based policing and racial profiling training to the entire state police. So I have the ability to provide that training to our officers. I have provided to some of the officers already, so it's in the process now of providing it to the whole department.
That'd be great. Thank you, Chief.
Hey,
Thank you, Chief.
To echo the training portion of this, I think it would be also appropriate for our entire staff to go through sensitivity training, not just the police department. Now, obviously, the training is going to be a little different, but in my background at Boyertown, we had some incidents and we brought in the Anti-Defamation League, and they did a great job with their training. So, you know, it's something I think our entire staff should be looking at going through, not just our police department. And I would include the maintenance guys as well, the administrative team and the maintenance guys.
And the highway team.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I meant by maintenance highway.
Yep.
I think it's important as a society that we make sure we're doing our part with that.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we could look into, Dave, some training and what's out there. Maybe PStats might be able to help with that.
Sure. I mean, we go through, I mean, last year we did the diversity and other things, but it's always certainly a good topic, just for certainly the educational piece of it and being able to share with everybody.
Maybe Clarence, you could call PStats tomorrow as a starting point, see if they have anything to help us point us in the right direction.
We did that as a board, correct?
Yeah, as a board.
So I'm talking the entire staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, there's so many resources out there from HR standpoint. I know at our company, we have not only the technical skills of our industry, but the soft skill things, this would be part of it. So there's a lot of programs out there that if need be, that we needed to, or we felt that it was important enough to have that for our employees going forward, that there are programs available with many companies. So again, this is something, hey, Jeff, possibly it is previous stop may have done something like this. So,
yeah.
But I do agree that it would be an excellent timing for everyone to review this after we see what's going on out there.
Yep. And probably putting together a plan moving forward so that, again, my experience with this is unfortunately sometimes this becomes like, all right, we can check that off our list, where this isn't an item you really are checking off on your list. This is something that you need to continually be aware of and continually work on. But the Anti-Defamation League is an excellent resource for this type of thing. So, okay, we can go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Chief. Alicia, do you have any?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Great. Joe?
Joe's muted.
Joe Rogoski.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of stuff. So
Yeah. It says I'm.
No, you're not muted, Joe. Go ahead.
Okay. Number one item tonight. Last week on June 3rd, I received an email from Borton Lawson. They're the consultant that's been performing the actual final design of the Gibraltar Road Bridge Replacement Project, as well as the intersection improvements at Gibraltar and Shelbourne. The purpose of the email was to submit a revised work zone traffic control plan. About over a year ago, they submitted during preliminary design a traffic control plan that the township staff as well as our office commented on, and we provided those comments directly to Borton Lawson. However, they're coming up with some alternative traffic control work zone for construction, and my recommendation would be is to have the emergency services as well as the Exeter Police Department staff in our office take a look at the alternatives, and we can come up with our recommendations. Some of these are road closures, some of these are one way, but it does differ from what the board has seen in the past. Unfortunately, they're not giving us a lot of time. They like our comments as soon as possible. However, I just wanted to inform the board that that we definitely want to comment on some of their work zone alternatives. The document, Clarence has a copy of it. If he could distribute to the appropriate staff members, and we'll take a look at it as well and share our comments. And then we can compile them all together and then forward it to the project manager from Borton Lawson to incorporate our comments into their design. Second item, we received a complaint for the intersection of Gibraltar Road at Pheasant Run and Ryan Court. We received a complaint whether or not a multi-way stop sign could be posted at this intersection. The Exeter Township Police Department assisted us providing some traffic counts as well as accidents and speed data. We reviewed the data that was provided as well as the criteria that's set forth in the PennDOT publication 212, as well as the manual on uniform traffic control devices, as well as the vehicle code. There's a set of criteria that must be met for a multi-way stop condition to be, we say, warranted or established at this intersection. Based on our review of the data and the criteria, our recommendation is not to post this as a multi-way that does not meet the criteria that is set forth in these publications. Our recommendation would be just to leave the intersection remain where Gibraltar Road is the major street and Pheasant Run, as well as Ryan Court, are the minor street approaches. Next, we received a letter from PennDOT. This was in reference to the Green Light Go applications that were previously submitted last year. As you're aware, the township has been very aggressive and has received this type of funding to help with the traffic signals that has been coordinated through McMahon Associates. However, due to the recent COVID-19 epidemic, as well as the reduction in the motor license fund revenue, PennDOT will not be awarding any Green Light Go grants this cycle. However, they did agree to retain our application so that when the next cycle becomes available, that application will be forward. Unless the township feels otherwise, my recommendation is just to let it go and allow them to process and resubmit our applications for the next Green Light Go grant cycle. Next, just an update on the Butter Lane Culvert. As you're aware, this evening, we did have the reimbursement agreement executed. The specifications are substantially complete. The only thing that we need is right now we're preparing the permanent easement legal description so that I can forward those to Alicia's office for the proper documents to be made so that both the upstream and the downstream property owners can execute those, and we'll be in a position to look for authorization from the Board of Supervisors to advertise this project. Hopefully by next meeting, we'll be able to seek authorization so that we can have a bid opening this summer and construction take place during the construction season. So things are progressing, they're moving along well. Everybody, utility-wise, I think we're in line, including Verizon. That project is proceeding. Just an update on Hilldale Storm Sewer. We're proceeding with the design. The topographic information has been completed. However, we do have several utilities that we've encountered up on Hilldale Road that we're working around. So it's a little bit of an obstacle. However, I've been in touch with staff and we should be having that design finalized and the specifications prepared so that we also can be advertising that project this summer for this year's construction season. And finally, we did receive information from Alan Piper from Berks County in regards to the 12-year TIP, the Transportation Improvements Program. The draft TIP for Berks County has been available for municipalities to review. There's approximately 128 projects that are being considered for a total of roughly $275 million. There will be a meeting, a virtual meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock on Tuesday, June 9th. However, public comments from the township can be submitted up to July 6th at 4 o'clock. The three projects that are located in Exeter is the 562 bridge replacement over the Monocacy Creek, and the Gibraltar Road Bridge Replacement Project, and the Gibraltar and Shelbourne Road intersection improvements project. They're treating those as two separate projects, even though the proposed let date is September of 2021 for the Gibraltar Road and the Shelbourne Road intersection improvements project. However, with the type of funding that's being utilized for these projects, they're showing up on the tip as two different projects. However, this money has been earmarked, and it looks as though we'll be going out to bid next year. And Monocacy, I believe, has been let. At least I've been told it's been let. However, I do not have a start date for the 562 bridge. That's a rehab project. I believe that's estimated anywhere from 3 to 6 months. That's all I have. Unless anybody has any questions, I'd be more happy to answer.
You've been busy.
Yeah, it's been a busy month.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, thank you.
Any questions from anyone?
No, thank you.
Thanks.
Clarence?
Yeah, we've been prepping for the roads that we awarded for the bituminous seal coat. We're getting them ready. They would like to start on the 11th. However, it's supposed to be raining that day, so could get moved back a little bit, but we are getting them ready to go. So whenever they get here, they will finish those. We finished the state road mowing, part of our contract, so that is done for the first term. And as everybody knows, probably the biggest thing that's happened in the last couple of weeks for us has been that storm damage. And they're still working up on Dotrick Road. The wires are, you can just get a car underneath them. They're that low right now. But so that we'll probably be still working on that stuff for at least a couple more days.
Great. Thanks, Clarence.
Mm-hmm.
Public comment. Laurie?
All right. We have 4 more comments under general. The first one is from Terry Reilly.
I want to thank you for barely including my general comment at the very end of the last meeting. If I were a conspiracist, I might think it was a topic you didn't want to discuss. After hearing David Hughes' comments at the last meeting where he mentioned the word falsehoods by Mr. Cusatis, you, Mr. Speece, asked for comments. Mr. Cusatis said he emailed me the falsehoods I had made. His email contained his usual diatribe but did not disclose any falsehoods in my comments to the board a few weeks ago. You seem to accept offhand comments by board members as gospel without any proof.
Is that the end of that?
Yep, that was the end of that one.
I don't know if anyone has any comments. I mean, I think we allow public comment from either side, and
We missed the one comment that he had. I think that's the issue.
right. And I think he
Yeah, and if I may.
We didn't
was-
do that on purpose, Lori, right?
No,
we included at the end.
that was totally my fault. So I will take full responsibility for that. I overlooked it. And that's why it was played at the very end. But that was my fault. The board does not even see public comments before they're read aloud at the meetings.
And he could disagree with my falsehoods, but I gave him what I told him was wrong. It's what makes this country great.
Yes.
If he could disagree, but it is what it is. I pointed out where he was wrong.
Yeah, and this board is made up of individuals, and we do not obviously all agree on a lot of topics. Okay, Laurie.
Okay, second comment is from Dorothy Reilly. So I will play hers.
We watched the last 2 meetings and many thoughts went through our minds in response. The waiver you are giving to Mascaro are similar waivers given to other businesses. You all just ignored Michelle's motion. John Cusatis is always cutting her off and the rest of you just let it happen, which makes you all look like a bunch of misogynists. Why is Clarence now saying everything is run down? Why weren't you keeping up with things? And why, when there was $7 million set aside for keeping up the wastewater treatment plant that had only a few years ago, been praised for how well it was run. Was it left in neglect? We know the answer. You wanted the money for the promenade. By selling off the plant, what a mess you have made for us residents. Berks County is now in the yellow phase of reopening and allowed to have up to 25 people at a meeting, and the RCC could certainly accommodate that number with social distancing. So it is time to get back to public meetings, because these online meetings certainly are not public, as there is no opportunity for the residents to ask questions or respond to anything that takes place in the meeting. Your golf course was one of the first things to open up. When is the library going to open?
Comments from anyone? I mean, I think internal.
The library, Laurie, when's the library gonna open? Is that part of the governor's, is there any direction there?
I may be mistaken, but I don't believe that that's our call to make. I think that that would be the Reading Public Library system that they're a part of.
I didn't know if there's any rules from the
Jen?
governor.
Jen?
The library put out a Facebook post a couple days ago, I'm going to say, stating that they actually are under a portion of the state government. They have to follow, there's actually a library system with the state, and they can't do anything until that part of the state has released them, basically. I did just see earlier, they're going to start doing curbside pickup on June 22nd, I believe is what Mallory, the executive director, stated. But yeah, they have an authority they have to follow as well. We are no part of that.
We ordered some signs for them to, let's say, parking for curbside pickup, so that's correct.
Anything else? Okay.
Okay, next comment is from John Carmello. And he is, just while you're listening, he broke it up into 3 separate topics, so you'll hear that as it reads.
Reading Country Club. This is one of the items that should be considered before the promenade, as it is both a financial drain and a potentially good source of revenue for the township. Yet it has been left off the agenda again. You hired a firm to do a study because apparently 50 years of history couldn't provide enough information to make a decision. It's not rocket science. Find someone who can operate a restaurant, establish an agreement that benefits the operator, the township, and the residents, and move on. This is part of the job you were hired to do. If you can't do it, then tender your resignation and the residents will find someone who can. Pennsylvania's American Water Company rate increase has the Board of Supervisors petition the Public Utility Commission on behalf of the residents against the rate increases being sought. If not, why not? Comments on agenda. All comments are read at the beginning or end of the agenda. Why not have those pertaining to agenda items read when that item comes up for discussion? That would make them more germane and reduce the risk of them falling through the cracks. It would also save time from having to revisit the comments when the agenda item comes up.
That's the end.
I'll comment on the Reading Country Club one. I spoke with Keith Taylor today, who he's the restaurant consultant, and he expects to have his report to us by the end of the month. He has a new person on his team, and he's very excited. He feels the person has really helped improve the process. COVID-19 is definitely being factored into his thought process and where we need to go from there. But we should have more information about this by the end of the month. He'll make himself available to answer questions. He'll have an extensive report, but he'll also make himself available to answer questions. And I got the impression if he needs to do it more than once, that won't be a problem.
Yeah, Keith's top notch, so we got the right person for that. He'll do a phenomenal job.
The reality is the landscape has completely changed because of COVID-19. I think he and I talked about a couple things, but a couple things I mentioned to him to make sure my thinking was correct was, one, we do have a good facility for social distancing because we have such a large area. And then the second is, you know, it's a difficult time for restaurants. Starting from scratch with us is probably going to be more appealing than some places that are really going to have to be digging out of a hole because of what's happened. So RCC hasn't been forgotten about, but in my opinion, we aren't experts on restaurants, and what we did was we went and got an expert, and I think he's going to be able to give us some valuable information. I never want to negotiate with anyone from a position of weakness. At this point, if I were involved in the negotiations, they would know far more than me. So I'm glad we have Keith to kind of educate us.
I agree. I think we're gathering some good data, Greg, you know, and Joe and Michelle and John. I mean, all of you with the clubhouse committee, the golf course committee. You know, 50 years of history. I don't know that the township doesn't have 50 years of history, and this is not something that's easy for municipal government. I think it's a great facility for residents, but you know, we also owe it to them to make sure it's done correctly. So I think it's great getting the data. So
and making the right decision so we don't have a mistake like Viva again.
Okay, we have one more. Last one, it's from David Hughes.
On May 26th, the board approved deferring rent receipts from our tenants at the Promenade Mall. This was not forgiveness but deferral. For our local merchants like the dry cleaners, pizza and the hair salon, I think we can all agree this is what we can do and should do to help them. However, the board apparently did not do their homework or simply decided to ignore that MONRO is very different. This store is owned by a publicly traded company. MONRO's fiscal year ended March 31st, 2020, and they reported record revenues of $1.3 billion and issued for the year 88 cents per share dividends to their stockholder. What do the generous residents of Exeter Township do? With the help of our supervisors, we kindly underwrite this publicly traded company that has a free cash flow of $93 million and net income of $58 million for their recently ended fiscal year. This is what happens when we have supervisors who do not take the time to fully understand the situation and the facts. I passed MONRO earlier this week and all of the bay's garage doors were open, and it looks like they are in full operation. This is simply another example of poor management by supervisors obsessed and occupied with their own special interests. No doubt they will criticize me for expressing my opinion here, but I wanted the record to show the inability to recognize and differentiate local businesses from large national corporations, which can access special programs provided by our national government. Locally, this is but a small part, a small indication of the difference in a local government that should have the best interests of the community versus their own special interests. We all suffer when government fails to operate efficiently and honestly and with the concerns and interests of its residents. For Exeter, this is nothing new. I have no confidence in our current board and greatly concerned with the $56 million they currently manage for our community.
anyone? Did everyone go mute?
No,
No.
Oh,
No,
yeah. Okay.
I voted against the rest of them, and I definitely believe this about this shop up there. If they're making all that money, they can afford what to pay the rent up there. It's just not right.
we have to be consistent though. I think that was one of our themes that we said for all the tenants up there.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was deferral. It wasn't giving away money, and it was
We were consistent.
I think that was a, Good decision.
You can't have special deals for special folks.
All right. Is that it, Laurie?
That was it.
Move on to supervisor comments. Michelle?
I was doing some searching on the internet and looking up some deeds. And why is John Granger's name on everything up at the Promenade on the deeds?
I don't know, Alicia or Jen, I'm not aware of that.
No, can somebody check into it? His name should be removed from there. It should only
Yeah,
be.
I'm happy to,
Sure.
I'm happy to pull the deeds. I don't know if it was on behalf of the township or not. I mean, it's obviously not in his name personally, but we can certainly pull the deeds and forward them
Yeah.
along.
And check him so that we can get his name off of there. Did we get our DECD, I'm saying it wrong, report? So we know, we can look at it and see approximately what we're gonna have to do for next year. I'd like to do a little planning. I am concerned after reading that article in the paper on Saturday. And did we get that back yet? The one that was sent to the state?
The DCED financial
Yes.
was filed. Yes.
Okay.
We got that a couple weeks ago.
Can I please get a copy of that?
Sure, I can send you a copy of that.
Thank you very much. Just trying to see what else I wrote down. I guess that's all that I have for now. I just am trying to get ahead of a little stuff so we don't get all crushed at one time. And thank you very much. And I wish everyone at home or anyone who's watching this to have a safe meeting. And also, I just want the police to know that I back them fully, and I will do anything that they need to help them in their job, and the chief to know that too. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good. Joe?
Yeah, just one thing, just again, too, to echo what Michelle just said, Chief, you and your team certainly support you to the nth degree, and thank you for all that you're doing. And other comments that I've already made. So thank you.
Craig?
Yeah, want to again thank the chief and the police department. Extremely difficult time. Also, I just want to make people aware that the food pantry had a canned food drive this past weekend. We collected about 6,500 items. 50 people volunteered to help out, which was tremendous. And if you missed the canned food drive, we're having a follow-up this Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Promenade, where you can, if you forgot to put your canned food items out or want to contribute at this point, you're able to. The June 3rd give hit 334 families in spite of that horrible storm. It came right in the middle of the give. So that really shows the need that we still have 334 families getting food in that kind of weather. So again, want to thank the food pantry for all they're doing during this crisis. That's it.
Very good. Thanks, Greg. John?
Just a quick comment. I also want to thank the chief, the police department, the fire department, and the fire police for being very involved in working with the school district on the parade for the seniors last week. Worked out very well. Fire department had the tower, Joe, the tower there, and it was up high with the eagle on top, and then the police was there with Officer Bentz as well as the fire police directing traffic. So great community spirit, great community support. Working with the school district. So I just want to thank those three entities for doing that. And then the music department also thanks us for letting us use the Promenade last Saturday after the food bank event, and they handed out their awards and had a Moe's fundraiser there. So they wanted to thank the entire board. So I'm going to pass that along. And otherwise, stay safe, and hopefully we'll be in the public meetings next month.
Very good. Thanks, John. Yeah, and a good comment, follow up on that. We are moving to yellow on Friday, and I know we've heard several comments from people about desiring to get back to public meetings, and I have replied back to some of those, and we'll say it again. I think everyone echoes these comments and the staff, other supervisors, but you can't rush back to that. We have to make sure we do it safely. It's very important to keep staff safe, keep everyone safe, residents safe, and until we're prepared to do that. Very similar to the comment around the library. We have to follow state guidelines, and we have to make sure we're prepared, for an opening. But other than that, yeah, I mean, there's been a flurry of activity here. I mean, the COVID crisis, the storms, the riots, and everything what the police are dealing with. So yeah, I thank everyone again, the staff, Clarence, Chief, Highway Department, Fire Department, and everyone. So thank you. So hope everyone stays safe. That's all I have.
Okay.
Take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Hurry.
Okay, there we go. Have a good night.
You too.
Alright.
Good
Yeah.
job, Lori.
Good night.
Thank you. My eyes are tired.